Cool. So I think to make a start, I think maybe people will probably come in, but that's okay because I'm not standing right in front of the door. So we'll just be fluid with this. But hi everyone, and obviously thank you so much for joining us today. Today we are going to be talking through the Power of Change Enablement, particularly in the context of technology implementation. And this is part of the Adoption and Change Management track for today. So to give you a quick introduction, we are from Accenture's digital workplace in the UK. I'm Isabella Holland. I am a change management and communications specialist, and we're joined by my colleague Amy, who is a change management and adoption evangelist. And obviously thank you to the sponsors for supporting this event today. So, to dive straight in, I think we can all probably agree that over the last decade, technology evolution has opened pathways for organisations to transform the way that they operate. We've seen this huge shift from a rigid, one-size-fits-all working model to an agile landscape which leverages technology in the day-to-day in order to maintain the speed which so many organisations now require from their employees. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of this, and I think these might resonate with a few of you in the room. So the first one being forgetting your building pass. It's okay. The first example being forgetting your building pass. So, I did it countless times when we were working in the office all the time. You turn up to the office and you can't get in because you've managed to leave your lanyard lying on your kitchen table. And it can kind of be a bit awkward when you have to ask your colleague or sometimes your boss, who's quite busy, on the 20th floor to come all the way down to the first floor to let you in, which could take sometimes like 15 minutes. But nowadays, you can simply tap in using the Apple Watch that you're already wearing, and off you go on your day. And the second example is working from a new office for the first time. So it can sometimes be a little bit daunting. You might be away for a meeting or something, and you're working from an entirely new office, and you don't know how you're going to find your desk, how you're going to find the loos, and most importantly, how you're going to find the coffee machine. But a lot of organisations now are providing a mobile app to their employees to help them navigate these things around the offices. And not only does that boost confidence for employees, but it also provides a better employee experience. So we could probably spend all day talking about the evolution of technology in the workplace. But one of the key themes that we see in the transformation projects that we deliver is an emphasis on remote working. We've all seen the pandemic catapult organisations from this 9-to-5 in-person model into an entirely new realm with up to 100% of staff working remotely for months, and I think now we can probably safely say years at a time. And cloud technology has been described as the backbone of remote working. So it's probably not a surprise that cloud implementation has surged recently. And Accenture has found that over 90% of enterprises have adopted cloud technology in order to drive efficiency. But it probably also comes as a surprise that only 35% of leaders felt that the cloud implementation delivered what they expected it to, despite all of these benefits, from intelligent buildings, which I mentioned at the beginning, to simple Teams meetings that you use every day. So why is this? Well, poor communication, insufficient support, and a lack of advocacy amongst employees are key contributors to the failure of transformation. And today, we are going to delve into several areas that you can explore to target and resolve those pain points. So the first thing we're going to look at is how technology can help your business reach its full potential. So I want to emphasize here the word potential. So you might be thinking of, looking to the future, setting goals, and developing yourself and your business to meet those goals. And there is an element of this, obviously, in technology implementation. I think an example could be, upgrading your systems, making sure that you're you've got the latest tech to maintain that competitive advantage. But what I really want to focus on in this section is the concept of reaching your full potential by exploring the current landscape of technology before you start defining the future vision for technology. And then secondly, Amy is going to take you through the organisational culture and how this corresponds to embracing change. So with culture, you might be thinking of what your organisation stands for or a vision of leadership for the business. But there are lots of other factors which are vital in shaping the movement towards sustainable transformation. And time and again, these are overlooked in change implementation programmes. So within this section, we're going to explore the Accenture end-to-end cultural analysis and how this ties lots of different factors together to create a holistic view of organisational culture, and then how this can be mapped across to equip your business for transformation. And then lastly, we're going to explore the Accenture Change Readiness Assessment, which supports transformation by highlighting the current appetite for change while simultaneously identifying resisting forces that could impact success. And in doing so, this allows you to develop a mitigation plan in advance to ensure success on that lasting change. So how can technology help your business to reach its full potential? Well, Accenture has found that more than half of senior IT executives referenced a lack of cloud skills within their organisation as one of the largest barriers to cloud adoption. So what this suggests to us is that a lot of business leaders might have steamed ahead and purchased the latest cutting edge shiny cloud solution, but really overlooked the support that was required alongside it to really help their employees understand, believe in and adopt technology. So linking this back to something that I mentioned earlier, it's really important to understand how technology is being used in the today before you start defining how it's going to improve your business in the tomorrow. Because what this does, it often ends up in purchasing the wrong product for your organisation's needs, and as we've seen several times, expensive technology falling by the wayside. So within this, there are 3 areas to explore to help you navigate and explore these challenges. The first one being adoption analytics. So tools like Microsoft Viva Insights are really helpful in addressing questions around organisational resilience. Microsoft Viva Insights generates data across a host of different Microsoft apps and services used by your organisation and can then recommend best practices to help drive the changes that you want to see. So, for example, it provides insights into team cohesion, and then enables you to address any gaps within that cohesion, because a sense of community and alignment is really important in underpinning that lasting change. Then we have user experience. So tools like Microsoft Forms are really helpful to help understand employees' perception and experience of technology. So by collating feedback within Microsoft Forms or any other kind of survey, you can identify patterns across apps and systems in users' experience. So, for example, you might find that some of your apps require additional bandwidth that users' home Wi-Fi might struggle to support, which could then explain why there was a slump in productivity in and around sort of March, April, May 2020, when suddenly everyone's been forced to work from home, and there's been that sort of a delay in kind of adoption and adapting. So by looking at this really helps to uncover sort of some unclear reasons as to why technology may not have been adopted, and again can help you mitigate that in future implementations. And thirdly, we have technology support metrics. So in a similar way to user experience, you can analyse IT support tickets to help identify recurring themes in users' experience. So you might find that one department, for example, raises higher tickets of support for Microsoft Teams. And then by looking at all these tickets a little bit closer, you might then find that a lot of these people were new joiners this year who missed the initial rollout of Teams and missed that training and the communication that was delivered at the beginning. So therefore, they might benefit from a little bit more hand-holding, a little bit more support in that area to really help them adopt the technology and drive down the support tickets. So all of this together helps to create an aggregated view of the organisation's technology literacy and can inform how quickly users will interact with complex solutions in the future. So not only does this highlight areas for improvement within the business, but it also sort of signifies some areas which should probably be prioritised over other business objectives first, enabling your business to sort of make those better technology choices and driving it forwards to its full potential. I'm now going to pass over to Amy, who will be taking you through the Accenture change models.
Okay, so now that Isabella's spoken to you about how the technology can enable your business to reach your full potential, I'm going to focus on how the culture of your organisation can help you in embracing change. So organisational culture is really important before you develop your change strategy. It will help you identify the strengths within your organisation and also the pockets of resistance that might be there that will hinder your success. And once you've got this really good view, you can create a great strategy that will enable you to have that sustained transformation. So Accenture found the second largest barrier to cloud adoption was organisational complexity and business change. So that's why it's really important to underpin the true foundations of your organisation. So who's within your organisation? Who are the actual people? What roles do they complete? What are their personas? What are the different departments and the teams across your organisation? And what are all their visions? What do they actually see for what they want to achieve for their career, but also their team's goals? And once we understand how the organisation operates, we can then use these insights to really drive that communication and those messaging to get people to have that lasting change. I'm going to turn the slide, not time yet. So how is that achieved? So first of all, we've got the physical environment. So how does your physical environment correspond with how you people use their technology and how people can really get the most out of that change? So as Isabella mentioned, and as I'm sure everyone in this room is aware, COVID drastically changed how we worked. So we had people that had never worked from home, they had bosses that had said they couldn't do their job at home, and then Boris Johnson stood on a podium and said, you can't go in the office anymore. So just like that, we had to switch how we worked and we didn't really have a say. And the biggest challenge is that a lot of companies didn't actually have the infrastructure or the tools that would enable collaborative working wherever you are, which led to a mass surge of rolling out tools like Microsoft Teams and Zoom across organisations. And that's great, adoption's great in Teams, people know how to use it, and virtual collaboration, from my experience and many of my clients, is working really well. But now we're going to be moving into hybrid working. So your team might not all be in the same place, but you are going to have some people in the office. You are going to have people at home. So actually, how does your office environment, whether you're at home or in your organisation's office, correspond to how you're able to use that technology? Have you got the breakout spaces that are going to enable you to collaborate virtually with your team while some people are at home? So actually, that physical environment really might cause some challenges. So being able to understand what those are is going to be really critical. So next we look at the organisational structure, as I mentioned briefly earlier. So who are the people within your team? Who are the people who are going to be reinforcing the change, but then also spreading rumours and saying it doesn't work for them? Who do you need to spend a little bit more time nurturing? What are the different personas? Do you have people that are based at their desk or people who kind of meeting hop? Do you have people who might work on the front line, whether it's transportation or healthcare or on the shop floor? And how will they be interacting with the technology? And then this leads me on to the kind of ways of working as well. So if you went to the keynote earlier, they were discussing a lot how people's personas in terms of what their role, but also their kind of physical and personal situation and circumstances. So, how do people's way of working impact how they use the technology? What are their processes and how does that impact it? So it's really important to get a really thorough understanding of this. And this is really key, not just across different organisations, but also across industries. And it's really important to understand what makes people tick, but also how they work. So I'm going to use healthcare as an example, because I think it's been getting quite a lot of press recently. But when you're thinking of how, for example, Microsoft Teams or teams such as Yammer, when it used to be more popular, was about how do people interact with those technologies, and how is that different across roles? So for example, you might have a nurse, for example, who works on the front line. It is still just as important for her to stay connected to her team, to stay connected to organisational news and information. But how she interacts with those technologies is drastically different to, for example, Bobby, who works in the procurement team. So it's really important to kind of gather that understanding and then use those insights to drive your key messaging, drive your adoption strategy and drive those campaigns. And then finally, we have the values of the organisation, the mission of where they want to get to, and also their vision for their future way of working. And something I think it's important to notice here as well is you don't just want to focus on the vision and value of the organisation as a whole, but actually how is this adapted across different teams? What are the motivators within different teams? And how can you actually work with these teams and kind of use the punchlines and use the things that are going to really create desire to get everyone really involved and wanting to change? So now that I've spoken a bit about the culture, I'm going to talk about change readiness. And change readiness is really, really important if you're going to be implementing, whether it's a new technology or a new process within an organisation, as it's really critical to understand how ready your organisation is for change. So at Accenture, we've got a change readiness assessment that we use for our clients to find out where they are today, where they want to get to, and how ready are they to get there. So here we focus on their appetite to change. So are they ready? Is there going to be any resistance or blockers that are going to actually cause this to be successful? And also we look at their current and past experiences of previous change implementations. So what works and what doesn't work? And also is there trust, which I think is really important, and I'll get to in a little bit more detail in a moment. So within this assessment, we focus on 3 key areas. So the first area is the operational model. So how does the operations of the business support that new technology or that new process or that change? What people have you got in place? So for example, if you were going to roll out a new technology, have you got an IT support team in place that can support with any issues that you have? Have they been upskilled? If you've got a user in the office, does your site services team have some understanding of how they might be able to use that technology so they can provide that support? Also, what communications teams do you have? Do you have you and the UX team that will be able to help you create really engaging collateral? Do you have a training team that can help you in cascading out that training? And what platforms do you have available for self-help collaterals, like user guides that users can kind of go on and access in their own time? Then we look at the processes in place as well. So what processes are there that are going to enable you to really able to change and be successful with your journey? So next we've got change networks and leadership forums. And these networks are really, really important for enabling you to get out your key messages, to role model the change and the benefits of what it could bring, to speak about success stories of how it works, but also kind of give you insights on what's not working so you can try and sort it out and improve the process. And they're really important for helping you tackle resistance. So resistance is something that isn't just within organisations and with businesses. It happens in everyday life. So some examples that have caused me a little bit of distress recently is when I found out that I can no longer go to my current GP because I've moved and I now have to move doctors. I was a little bit put out. Found out that my favourite spin instructor was leaving my gym. Again, I was quite annoyed. But, you know, we adapt, we kind of move on from it, and we have to deal with these things in everyday life. And it's the same within businesses. Change happens and change is important. So when we're working with our change networks, we make sure they're really upskilled, that they can help working with their teams in managing conversations about change. If they hear rumours, if they hear resistance, how can they speak to their colleagues and coach their colleagues on that change journey so that they can start thinking differently and really embrace it? And then we've got the history, which I briefly touched on earlier. So how has technology been implemented in the past? What adoption initiatives really, really work and resonate? Do people like face-to-face training? Does your business more engage with kind of online platforms and quick reference guides? Do long emails not really get read within your organisation, but town halls or roadshows work? So it's really important to get this consolidated view. So history for change is really important if you're looking at driving adoption of a current technology that's not really been received well. When you first implemented that technology, what did you do and why didn't it work? What did you miss out and what do you need to understand now so you can drive it forward? And once we have that really clear picture, it's going to be really useful for building a mitigation plan to help you tackle resistance and kind of increase that adoption going forward. So this change analysis pulls insights from your culture and from your technology to really understand what the appetite for change is and how you as a business can drive that going forward. So to conclude, to really articulate the benefit of the technology, you need to understand the impact that it has on the whole organisation. And again, when I say the whole organisation, I don't mean a business, I mean what makes up the business and the different teams. And that will help you with creating desire and also resistance to change. So we use the findings from all these analyses when we're building our frameworks for our change adoption programs for our clients. So within this, we use insights from technology platforms and data, from user behaviour and how ready the organisation is to change. Because this really enables businesses to achieve that return on investment, which is usually the biggest kind of goal of your chief finance officer. So it's quite a good thing to get. So one thing I want to do is I want to kind of challenge you to think about your organisation's culture. So people quite often kind of fit into the bracket that think, oh, I know my culture, I know how my business works, I don't need to look into it. Well, actually, if we look at the last 18 months, your culture will be completely different to it was 18 months ago. And within the next 18 months, as we adapt to a new normal, it's going to change again. So I really just give you the challenge to really think about your organisation, how it works and how it's adapted. And just on a final note, just to remember that if you want your transformation to truly stick, one size does not fit all. So thank you very much for coming along. If you have any questions or just want to have a chat, come and grab me and Isabella, we'll be here.
Brilliant, well done. Thank you. Really interesting.
And we stuck to time.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Which room are you in?
Sorry?
Which room are you in?
I'm in Hambledon. I think we're...
Oh, that's where we are.
Oh, okay.
Was it? So
Yeah, I haven't been over there yet.
as you walk into the main
Can you
building,
go from where?
yeah. In fact, are we going back that way?
I haven't been over there yet. Yeah, let's go over there. Amy, Isabella, we're going to go to the other side.
How do you get there? Is it through
Just round. Run away. No. Well, we could work out how to get in.
Yeah.
I guess you've got a reference point to...
Yeah, so it definitely depends. I would say as a kind of ballpark, you would need at least 6 weeks with a business discovery, and that would be a lot of things to discuss today before you do the rollout. It could last really between, I'd say, 6 weeks to 3 months, depending on kind of a scale. I think as well, it's important to note it depends on how proactive the organisation is. So setting my really long term is actually getting sessions in the diary sometimes. So yeah, I'd say 6 weeks to 3 months.